You're listening to the AfterBuzz TV Network, now the largest new media platform on the web, and your #1 source for after-show entertainment. The AfterBuzz Studios in Los Angeles, California. Presented by Maria Menounos and Bing.com and streaming live thanks to Akamai Technologies. This is AfterBuzz TV's Under the Dome After Show. We'll break down tonight's episode and get you all the latest news and gossip. And now, another post-game wrap-up show for your favorite TV show. It's AfterBuzz TV's Under the Dome After Show.
Hey everybody, Bing is for doing, and we are here doing another Under the Dome after show. It is Season 1, Episode 10, Let the Games Begin. I am Matt Lieberman, and joining me on the panel as ever is the wonderful, fantastic Miss Jacque Borowski.
Hello.
And we have a very special guest on the show this evening. Executive producer, showrunner of Under the Dome, Neal Baer is here.
Hi.
Thank you so much for joining us, Neal. It's so awesome to have you.
It's great to be here.
Great. Well, we have so much to talk about, and we're going to talk about the show at large a little later on. But first, we're going to get into this episode. And what an episode it was. We only have 3 episodes left in the season, and you can definitely see it was a deft way of moving us toward this sort of end game for the season. We still don't know what it is.
Because now we know that there's a season 2.
Yes.
So I feel like this is a discovery episode where we know a lot of things are changing.
Yeah, we learn more about the history of the town and the fact that being riddled with secrets is not something that only belongs in the present, that it has always been kind of a negative place, or at least for some people. We got some violence. We got some major mini-dome developments. We got a chrysalis. We got some great jokes at Joe's expense, which are always great. And even Junior got in on the fun. So did Linda. But we're going to jump in. We're going to talk about Dale Barbara. What a man, what a man, what a man, what a mighty good man, and what a great fighter. After last episode, when Max showed up unexpectedly, he's grappling with the fact that his secrets are about to be exposed and is forced to fight in this kind of Thunderdome-esque underground fight club.
Thunderdome under the dome.
Thunderdome under the dome. I spent hours yesterday trying to figure out like the best way to say that, but that's the best way.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah.
It took me 2 minutes.
Well, that's why you get paid the big bucks. So, Neal, when breaking this episode and sort of the last one too, the inclusion of Max, bringing her into the story, what was your kind of like chief impetus in like bringing this character into the story to kind of complicate things?
We wanted to reveal the mysteries that we had set up at the beginning of the series about the propane, Duke, Coggins, and Peter Shumway's death. And we thought a good way to do that would be to tie Big Jim and Barbie together through a mystery person. So in the first episode of the season, Barbie is on the phone on his cell phone, talking to someone, saying he accomplished his mission. Well, that was Maxine. And so Big Jim was also dealing with Maxine. So it was our way of pulling the two of them into the same diabolical kind of vortex led by Maxine, and they both now have to become partners in a way against even a bigger evil than possibly Big Jim. So it was a way to get our characters together and to answer a lot of mystery, because we have a lot of mysteries unfolding obviously in this episode when the egg releases all the pink stars.
Yes.
I have to say, can I jump in though? I love that she's a woman. Because when he's on the phone, you're obviously picturing some sort of like mob boss type dude. And I really like that kind of turnaround where it's like, okay, the woman is a big, bad, powerful female, and she's a femme fatale. And I really liked that surprise.
And I wonder where she got all those clothes.
Right?
Yeah, we were wondering that in the last episode. We're like, she has been traveling with her extensively magnificent wardrobe.
That's right. Or we thought maybe she just took them from whoever's closet she was.
I guess, but
she does that.
It's like, how does she keep them so crisp when she's taking a boat to and from the island?
Well, she is really adept at managing everything.
Yeah, and at sneaking around, even better than Junior, because no one knew that she was there.
Well, she just hung out, and she had her bodyguard, Otto, kind of like we'll see Otto in the next episode too, kind of checking things out for her.
Cool. Yeah.
And I like that they brought her mom in, but did you want to? You don't want.
Oh yeah. Well, Mayor Whittingham, you've worked with before, and she
many
did
times.
a great job this week.
Yeah, she was a real trooper to go into the lake. That's based on, I love to pull scenes that are inspired by films I love, and so there's an old film you may or may not have seen called A Place in the Sun, with Montgomery Clift and Elizabeth Taylor. And there's a very famous scene with Montgomery Clift and Shelley Winters, and he got her pregnant, but he's in love with Elizabeth Taylor, so they go out on a picnic, and they're in the boat, and Shelley Winters is yelling at him, and she's so, she's such a pain, and she falls out of the boat, and he's about to save her.
Oh my gosh.
And he looks, and he doesn't. But so he doesn't really kill her, but by omission, he doesn't save her either. And I just always love that scene, and so it's A Place in the Sun. George Stevens directed it on Under the Dome.
And it was such a beautiful use of Big Jim sets it up himself. The world just kind of will give me the answer. And
I love when he's about and he reaches.
Yeah.
Wait a minute.
Yeah. It's like there's my answer right there.
Right.
Now that scene with Mayor, I know we're getting off topic because we're gonna get to Jim in a minute, but while we're here, it was just so very charged, because she knew him, but at the same time she kind of alluded to the fact that Jim might be Maxine's father.
Yeah, a lot of people thought that, but that's really probably not the case.
Yeah.
Because he really didn't recognize her, and I think Big Jim was, really status conscious.
Sure.
And so I don't think that he would have paid. That's why I didn't even really recognize her. So yeah, you never know what other secrets will, percolate up. But I think Maxine was like with some other guy and had a tough life. But it's interesting because she was the insurance policy. And then not anymore. So we'll have to see what happens in episode 11 when the insurance policy is gone. Plus, Big Jim, he got Maxine to say what the dirt is on Barbie because he did not know.
I was just gonna say that. Yeah, I noticed that because he didn't know what the connection was till this point.
Exactly.
Now he does.
And nobody else is going to know that he knows that.
And she's dead.
Yeah. And he's loose. I was so mad at Linda. You don't let him have a night, no matter how much respect you have for him. He's dangerous.
I was worried that Linda was going to be killed. He just let another person die, and she's there at night. I mean, Linda almost to a fault believes in the people in the town.
That's right.
Yeah.
And so she goes out there at night and is just hanging out on his porch, and I'm like, he pulled the gun away and then almost shot Maxine's mom in the face, and then he's coming back here and he could do the same thing to Linda.
She's very much the town's moral center. She believes in people, and you're right, it's to a fault. Mm-hmm. And I was so afraid that she was going to die, and and we don't, but I hope she makes it to season 2. I hope she does.
We do like Linda.
Because even though she is a crack shot, as we saw when they were facing down the Dundee boys earlier in the season, but she's not suspicious enough.
No.
She's not.
She has a good heart.
She has a good heart, but that doesn't belong in the police force. So many people walk in and out of that police station all day long, and they could have taken all the weapons. They could have taken all the there's no.
Well, you're right to be worried because as you saw with, Reverend Coggins and Alice.
Yeah.
No one is safe under the dome. So I can tell you that definitely, in the last 3 episodes, no one is safe.
You can't even tell us one person who might be safe.
And I was still hoping that Alice was going to come back as a zombie and be zombie Alice.
Oh yeah, Jackie had.
I was holding out. I was holding out for that last.
Well, you never know.
Ooh, yes.
Yeah, well, because the dome egg started activating the moment that Alice died. And we're gonna get into all those questions later.
Right.
Let's get back.
Okay.
Let's get back to Dale, who finally, when he has no other option, tells Julia, or tries to tell Julia that he murdered her husband. She had already figured it out because of the life insurance policy in the safety deposit box. And I've just been crying for him to do the right thing. And thank you for finally getting him to do it. But the thing that kind of shocked me is Julia is still entertaining the idea of keeping this man in her life. Like
she loves him that much.
She loves him.
It has been 10 days. That's crazy.
Angie's still hanging out with Junior, and Junior locked her in a basement. I mean, it's like love. I think there are so many, especially in sci-fi, love makes you do weird things.
I think that's just true in life.
Yeah.
Well, Angie was sick. You know, Junior kept saying, you're sick, I have to protect you.
Right.
And he did it in a very intense way, certainly, and probably unforgivable in many ways, but he was right. Angie had a seizure, and
we
she
didn't
was
believe
sick.
him.
But how did he know?
He had that feeling because he was in love with her, and he didn't know that he was, you know, the fourth hand until the end of the episode, but his mother had painted the picture that predicted the pink stars falling on him.
Yeah.
And so his connection with Angie, I think, is very powerful, and I think they were drawn to each other because she's special in some way too, and then she and her brother are special, and then this girl who came into the town unexpectedly is special.
Yeah. And when we get more into the kids later, I have tons of questions.
So many.
Because the majority of our podcasts involve just intense, insane speculation.
Yes.
Which might not be that insane because there are so many questions on this show. And one thing that I really have to compliment is the amount of information doled out at what time. Because every time that you answer a question, you answer it with more questions. And it just makes it all the more fun for those of us at home watching.
Well, that's good.
Yeah, because we, even when we found a dome egg, we still didn't know the purpose of it. We knew that it was tied to the dome somehow. We knew that that the dome could communicate, but that still doesn't tell us where the dome comes from or what its purpose is.
And now there's a caterpillar that's just made a chrysalis in the dome, and we don't know what that's about, but we do know a couple of things. Like we know from the very beginning that Angie has a tattoo of a butterfly on her shoulder. And we know that Joe said the monarch will be crowned to Julia. And we saw monarch butterflies encasing the outside of the dome in episode 5. They were drawn to it magnetically. For whatever reason, the dome changed the magnetic field just to make the monarchs come. And now we have a caterpillar that will turn into a monarch. And what does that mean?
Yeah.
And how will that connect to the monarch will be crowned?
Yeah. And
we will find out.
Well, Joe kind of debunked Angie's tattoo last episode. He said the colors are all wrong. Is that like a double fake out?
I don't know. I know in the next episode 11.
Okay.
With the storm coming.
Yeah.
Showed the preview, and it's like it's a storm bigger than you can imagine. We'll get into who the monarch is even more.
Okay. Great. Let's move on to Julia and Linda. Linda finally, throughout the season so far, she's been doing her job. She's been very, very diligent. She's been trying to take over as sheriff of this town, and finally she has an emotional tie to the story. She finds that Duke may have been involved with this propane cover-up. And it's really great to see her put her investigative skills to use, and also when she opens that safe deposit box and she finds the badge.
Oh, I know.
It's so sweet.
That's very sweet.
The relationship between Duke and Linda is like one of the reasons why it was so heartbreaking when Duke's heart effing exploded.
Yes.
It blew out of his chest, yeah.
Yeah.
It did. That's how, that's why, you could have figured out what was going to happen to Coggins because he had that cochlear implant.
Mm-hmm.
It's like if he got close to the dome.
Yeah, it was
So
all
we
over.
love that. That's why we gave him that implant, because I wanted to kill him in that way. So it was like, how could I kill him? I know how. And that was so cool when Big Jim pushed his head against it and the blood kind of came out.
Oh, it was so brutal.
So cool. Yeah.
It was so brutal. So thank you for that.
Sure.
Thank you for that.
There's
image.
more brutality on the way.
Yeah. You after years of cops and doctors, you're just like, I'm just gonna let my freak flag fly, and I'm gonna kill people
exactly
in brutal fashion.
Exactly.
I think there were people that died on ER.
Yeah, many.
Sure.
And on SVU too.
Sure.
Yes,
very
too.
graphically horrendous ways.
Yeah.
But there's also
They weren't cut in half like a cow quite.
No, but there was an episode where a guy cut women's feet off.
Oh gosh,
But,
I did not see that one.
Yeah. So but
so maybe we should have seen this coming.
Yeah, so it could have. But there's also goodness and warmth and people, falling in love too. You got to have both.
Absolutely.
It's like a microcosm.
And there's a great homage to Spielberg in episode 12 too, with Nori and Joe and a wagon. So it's very much Elliot E.T.ish, and we were like
I was
watching
just
it
gonna
today.
ask.
And it's like, and I was like, wow. I said, I hope Steven likes this because we put this in.
Like this episode in particular felt very 80s Amblin to me, with the 4 young people banding together to try to figure out this supernatural thing.
And they're the only ones who seem to care about what's going on with the dome. Everybody else is dealing with
their personal
problems,
stuff and crimes and secrets and sex.
They'll all get involved with the 4 soon enough.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Well, that's good to hear.
You know, it's like Big Jim doesn't know anything about it. Linda doesn't know anything about it. Barbie kind of knows. Julia knows.
Yeah.
So there's some stuff that we have 3 episodes left. There's plenty of things to happen.
And Dodie knew about it.
Dodie knew, but it kind of like was blocked, you know, when she
out of her brain.
When she was zapped, but other things will happen with Dodie too.
Well, it appears that the dome just didn't want her to know.
That's right. Yeah. That's right.
The dome chooses very, very carefully.
Correct.
Yeah. I'm just going to take a quick second and talk very briefly about a movie that the founders of AfterBuzz TV, Maria Menounos and Kevin Ardegaro, made called The Adventures of Serial Buddies. It is available right now on serialbuddies.com as well as on iTunes and video on demand. It is $4.99 to rent, $5.99 to buy. Many people ask us, they tweeted us, you know, how can we help AfterBuzz TV? I love the after shows. I watch so many of them. Well, if you rent or buy this movie, all the proceeds come back into our studios, help us finish building our 3rd studio so we can keep giving you great free programming about the shows that you love. So please help us, and you get to see a great movie packed with celebrity cameos, including Maria herself, Beth Bears from Two Broke Girls, Christopher Lloyd, Henry Winkler, Christopher McDonald, Artie Lang is in it, Kathy Lee Gifford. It's super, super funny. It's a dark and twisted comedy about serial killer buddies, and you get a great movie, and you get to help us keep giving you the shows that you love and get great guests like Neal. So, let's talk.
So Linda,
yeah.
We were talking about the scene where she opens the case.
Yes.
And she you can tell that she has good police training because, you know, Julia's digging around and she's like, okay, I got to get a key to open this. And Linda's just like, okay. She just picks up the tank, breaks it down.
Yeah. Good training, but also knows when you don't need to be, you know, you don't need to be careful.
Right. I mean, there's no one there. So.
I love when they're going through the bank and the drawers are open. There's money everywhere. It's like,
yeah.
Who cares?
Yeah.
That's
when you can have
and
a
money
big thing
doesn't
of
mean
salt.
anything anymore.
Salt is more valuable than money, as we saw.
Yeah. That guy, when he was running like hell, and all he had was like one big thing of Morton's, and just thousands of dollars are just laying around. I'm wondering, at this point, after 10 days of being under the dome, it's not really a ton of time in the grand scheme of things, but I imagine if you're in that situation, it's got to feel like forever. Hence, why everyone's so, you know, starved for entertainment.
It's like Hunger Games or Lord of the Flies, where it's like things start to deteriorate very quickly.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But no one seems to be planning for the future past dome,
Except for Big Jim Rennie.
except for Big Jim Rennie.
And
Right.
Maxine.
Yes.
And Maxine. You know, and they've probably run out of, you know, booze and, you know, things, you know, like that, you know, probably early on. So it's, you know, great to corner the market for Maxine and try to, you know, have this entertainment like, you know, Roman gladiators with Barbie. So, and I just love that she didn't bet on Barbie. She's just so dark and dirty.
And she knew exactly what he was going to do. That's how smart
and
she
I
is.
love how she's like, you know, cheering him on, but you could see she's kind of like, she has this look on her face like,
cagey. Yeah.
let's see if he really does it. And then when he's losing, she doesn't even break, you know, a sweat. She's like, and then she says, I knew it. You know, I love that.
Yeah. No.
But the one thing with Maxine is that she loves Barbie. And when she kissed him and then he kind of made this grimace and turned away and she looked, you know, upset. Like there is this core of care in her for him.
Mm-hmm.
Don't mess with Maxine on those issues. Bad stuff happens. Next episode.
Barbie.
She's possessive. But what's the genesis of their relationship? How did they meet? Or is that going to be established later
Well,
on?
she said they met. I think she says that they met it's
they met at a bar. She bought him a drink. They didn't come up for air for 2 days.
Exactly. So he started working for her. He needed a job.
Yeah.
And he has like a lot of guilt from being in Iraq and stuff. So he just took on a job where he was like an enforcer.
Yeah.
But now that he's in love with Julia, everything has changed, and we'll see what happens. But there's no stopping Maxine, and she really does some. What's the darkest thing you could imagine that she would do?
Kill children.
Or, well, you saw in the previews.
Yeah.
Somebody shot.
That's
No.
true.
It was.
Oh.
Wasn't it Julia?
Yeah. Ooh, It was Julia.
Jealousy.
Oh, wow.
Is that an AfterBuzz exclusive? Can
That
we
is.
say? Yeah.
AfterBuzz TV exclusive.
Okay, so extreme
Jealousy.
jealousy. She needs to stop mixing business with pleasure, this Maxine.
But she's already established that she gets what she wants. And
That's
if
true.
she doesn't get what she wants, there's going to be
It is
consequences.
brutal next week, what she
Yeah.
does. Like I said, nobody's safe.
I can't believe that we only have 3 episodes left, because it seems like things are only going to get crazier from here. If Julia gets shot in episode 11,
If
she
Julia's
does.
getting shot.
when
No.
No, but I'm just saying, if that, then things can only get crazier from there. Damn it, Neal. You've crafted a very addictive, very entertaining
Great.
show. And
Cool.
I can't wait to see the rest of it and
Thanks.
how it turns out.
So Julia's like, the foil to Maxine, because she's such a good-hearted person. So she finds what is in this insurance policy in her husband's safe.
Yeah, in her husband's safety deposit box. She has a key, as well as Linda, who I love that little scene where she finds it in the hat. She's like, there's no leads, there's nothing. He drained every bottle he found. He fly fished, but his tackle box was in the house. Hat? And I was just like, is there going to be a folded up wad of paper in that hat? But no, there was a key. That life insurance policy, which I guess he had bought very recently before his death.
right, and they're void if you commit suicide, which is why he had to have Barbie kill him, because he just was in too deep, and
Yeah.
he knew that it was the only way he could save his wife.
Yeah, which again, answering questions. We'd wondered.
And it was clever that she put that together, because I feel that she's such a smart woman, and she's been having a hard time putting facts together. And this time I was really rooting for her. I was like, you do that, except for this sucks. It's a fact that
so
sucks.
good. She's so good in that scene.
Yeah.
She opens the box and shows him that the gun is missing. She already knows. I love that she beats him to the punch.
Yeah. Yeah, she beats him to the punch, and she doesn't quite drag him in it. She doesn't drag him in the mud. It's so interesting to me. She's not angry. She's disappointed. It's
Yes, she is. She's just disappointed.
Yeah.
Is there a future for them? We shall see.
We shall see if she survives the Maxine slaying.
Don't say
Yeah.
that.
Oh my God. Anyway, I think it's time to move on to Big Jim. So we saw him early in the episode. I love that you've paired Jim and Barbie together, because they can't trust each other. We know how deep Big Jim is in his criminal activity, how ruthless he is, and so does Barbie, or at least to an extent. He has an idea of it. Anyone who's willing to sacrifice that many men to get control of a water spigot is obviously
Because
a
he
bad
cares
guy.
about the town.
He
I mean,
cares
that's what I
about the
like.
town, you
It's like
guys.
he cares about the town and he loves his son.
Yeah.
There are two things, and so that drives him. He may go about it in a slightly unusual way, but then he got rid of Coggins, who was really pretty bad. But,
Yeah.
Well, Coggins was going to expose him because Coggins turned over a new leaf and was going to tell everyone. But Big Jim really does love the town, and he'll do anything to save it, and that's why he went after Ollie in the water, because he knew that Ollie would then be in control. But he also has some control issues.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So you really do, because I've had my doubts, over the course of the season. Does he really care about the town, or is that what he's told himself?
No, I think he really cares about the town, but he goes about it in ways that, it's kind of released this kind of craziness in him, that when he was just one of many, town council members, he didn't really have a power. Now it's gone to his head.
Mm-hmm.
But I still think, well, at least he tells himself he cares about the town, and he did get the water back for the town. And I almost started to say something that you don't see until episode 12. But he does, work to organize everybody in making things happen later on in the season. So he really does.
He did organize he did save the people from the fire too in the beginning.
Oh, that's right, with the backhoe.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, he comes in driving with the backhoe.
That was one of my favorite moments because, I mean, when you're first watching the series, you're kind of like, well, this guy's shady and what's his motivation? But then he comes back and he saves everybody, and you're like, okay, he really does, in his like
the place could have gone up in smoke.
Mind, yeah. But I think it's also because if you're he's had this issue where he's like the small guy, and that's why he was called Big Jim. And I think the moment he gets into this position where he's in a position of power, and he's like, oh, I'm finally important. And I think that
he is big.
Yeah,
Jim now.
He is Big Jim, and that's what matters to him, is being important. And
but he got his son to kind of step up too in episode 4 when his son was in the hospital.
Yeah,
and he became his own man.
And
too.
that was the first time that Junior really emerged as a potential force for good. He had been so irredeemable, and to see that side of him, to make us actually care about him, I think is a great feat, because he was pretty much a monster from the get-go.
And this is what's interesting. I said this in our last episode, is the actor who plays Junior. He has this great way of portraying everything he's doing as creepy, and then now that you're looking back on it, you're like, that acting was so borderline that now you're like, maybe that's not creepy at all. And now you're kind of like behind him. You're like, well, look, he was right. There was the painting, and I mean, he didn't actually hurt her.
And his mother committed suicide, and he'd been lied to by his father.
Yeah.
You know, there's an interesting story about Alex Koch, who plays that part, because when he came to audition for us, it was his first audition ever for TV.
Wow.
He came out of college. He went to school in Chicago, and he was in plays. But our casting people who cast Breaking Bad, that's how we got Dean, which was great. And they cast, Sherry and Sharon cast Walking Dead as well. They brought Alex in, and I immediately knew, even before he read, sometimes we had Patricia Mara on SVU, a.k.a. now Rooney Mara.
Yeah.
And when she came in, you know, we gave her her first part. You could just tell. Or Michael Pitt, who's was on
Boardwalk Empire.
Yeah, and in the Bertolucci film, he came in for us, one of his first roles, and I said, oh my gosh, that guy's a star. So, and Abigail Breslin as a little girl came in, and I was like, wow, star.
Yeah.
So you can kind of tell sometimes when they just walk in. And when Alex walked in, I said, gosh, he just seems exactly like Junior. And he'd never auditioned before, so he was just like, wow. I remember we were down in North Carolina, and he was on the phone talking to his mother, like, I can't believe it. I can't. And it's like, because it really doesn't happen.
Yeah.
It really doesn't. You know, people are like, oh, you know, you can go to Hollywood and become a star. No. There's hundreds of thousands of actors, but he's so talented that, you know, it just worked. And so I think it's a great story, because he's such a nice guy too, and he's just so you know, emboldened to just everyone, like, you know, and just the loveliest person. Like, how did this happen? It's because he's really talented, so you just never know.
Yeah.
And he's so perfect for that role. He just is Junior.
He's so off-putting, but it comes from a positive place.
Yeah.
It just is manifested in this rather perverse way.
And he's not afraid to go to these dark places, which will happen in some future episodes. So
I'm not surprised.
Right.
But I laughed so hard when they're in his mom's shed, and they're like, I wonder where Junior is. I'm right here.
He has so many moments. There are so many moments with him like that I have screamed, because I'm like, oh my gosh, he's there. And he does this great job of like being really quiet until the last minute and just like busting in with his line.
Yeah.
He has this scene in he has this line in episode 12 that I love, where he says to his father, he says, you know, Dad, don't lie to me. It could be very bad for both of us. And I just love the way he does it. It's like, I'll say, but the two of them, they really get into quite a mess coming up. So it's really, we have a lot of fun stuff.
Completely unrelated, but I totally just had an image of Alexander Koch as Batman, and it made so much sense.
It does make sense
in my head.
He could have replaced Ben Affleck.
Yeah, well, he might later on.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens.
Hear that casting right here.
Yeah.
Well, you know, Britt's doing a movie with George Clooney.
Oh, wow.
Nice.
Is she in The Monuments Men?
She's in Tomorrowland.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. Oh,
she's the star.
Yeah.
You know, and I worked with Britt. So 3 of the actors on our show, I worked with on SVU. Britt, who was killed by Jesse McCartney in an episode where she played Debbie Mazur's daughter. Aisha, who played a transgender principal, and Samantha Mathis, who played a woman in the 100th episode who had murdered someone, but for good reason, and Jacqueline Bisset was her mother. So I'd worked with the three of them, and so that's how, one of the ways we cast, because of people I work with, I really like all the actors I work with, so it's like, we should have Aisha play Carolyn, we should have Samantha play Alice, and we should have Britt play Angie. So it's like, it's really fun. And then Rochelle I worked with last year on A Gifted Man, so that was like, I knew Julia, we got to get Rochelle.
Yeah,
she's great.
She is.
Yeah.
Will we see Carolyn again before the end of the season? We've missed her.
We really like her.
Yeah.
You'll definitely see Carolyn
with Zombie
very
Alice.
Much. Oh, you will see Carolyn go head to head with Big Jim.
Oh my gosh! Oh snap!
See, like the way you were saying it, you're gonna see. I'm wondering if she's gonna have a gun in her hand or what's gonna happen.
She doesn't need a gun. She is powerful.
She's powerful.
Yeah.
She has great stuff coming.
She doesn't need a gun, but it's useful.
She's definitely back. She's in mourning right now, but she's back.
Cool.
It's awesome.
That's great. So.
Dumb children.
Yeah, I want to talk just a little more about the sequence out on the island. Just because I really loved the way that it was built between Dean and Mare, and maybe just a little bit more about Jim's history in the town. We have so very little of it. We have the story of how he got his name, Big Jim. But that's really it.
We know he's a used car salesman.
Yeah, and we know that he loves the town, but the town isn't necessarily a positive place for people, and he's kind of classist. Where do you think his... And
he reads Winston Churchill.
Yeah?
Because in the first episode, he's reading that in the diner. Oh, we forgot to talk about Rose. Poor Rose.
Poor Rose.
We lost Rose too. So.
We loved Rose.
Rose.
That was awful.
We lost Rose. Yeah.
That was so awful.
Yeah.
That was an awful way to lose Rose too. It wasn't like she died peacefully.
No, and Angie just looking. Oh, it's awful.
And for
we
no
were scared
good
that Angie
reason.
was going to die too. In that
I
scene.
know.
That was awful.
Well, because she was already dead in the book.
Yeah.
And when we're done with the episode stuff, I really want to talk about the development of the show.
Sure.
So
the island.
Yeah. I guess I just wanted to talk a little bit more about the scene when they're inside the house. Jim's exploring, and he finally finds out, that Agatha is Max's mother, and you've got that great standoff.
She brings him inside though first, is what I liked.
Yeah.
Because she knew that if she had an altercation with him outside, someone might see, or he might get away.
Or she didn't have her gun.
Right.
Yeah. She had her gun inside.
Yeah.
Smart lady.
Do you think that, Jim could see in her eyes that, well, no matter how much hate she had, she wasn't a killer?
Yes, because he's a good judge of character. He really is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's a good judge of character, but he also he's a murderer, and I guess I want to know, has he ever murdered anyone pre-Dome?
No.
Or is that's just him trying to protect his
He's
status?
never been in this position, right, where he's trying protect his status.
And now he's even more desperate now that his secret is exposed. And I'm actually kind of shocked that he didn't kill Linda, because that seems to be his MO at this point.
Well, no, he's smart. Why would he kill the person he needs? He needs Linda because Linda is a law enforcement person. He can't just kill wantonly. He does it for what he thinks are good reasons, with Coggins, for instance, and now with Maxine. He didn't kill Maxine. He just didn't put his hand out there.
He just let her die.
That's right.
So he thinks he can control Linda.
That's right. Right. And so I think that and Linda's useful.
Yeah. So
he's very smart about that, and I think the power has gone to his head, and he sees himself as the savior of the town.
Totally. I think we should move on because we still have so many questions for you. And talk about Joe and Nori and Angie and Junior. So last episode, we find out that Angie is one of the keys to the mini dome, and that there's a fourth hand missing. We speculated. We thought it was probably Junior, and it turned out to be right.
I really wanted it to be Junior. He was holding out for Ben.
in a perfect world, I think Angie and Ben belong together.
Oh, because he was helping her out in the diner.
Yes.
See?
He is a sweet guy.
Well, you'll see Ben again. He's
Good.
back.
Because, he brought Truman onto the show, and Truman is easily the breakout star.
That's right.
And
well, we'll see Ben again in a really fun way.
Okay, great.
I do like, though, that because you have a lot of heavy stuff going on, you need to break it up with some comedy.
Right.
And the kids always bring in the comedy.
They do.
Yeah.
And I love Joe's interjections because he always has some sort of like smart but silly like teenager thing
There's some
to
great.
say.
It's like there's a great scene in the next episode where he has to drive a car to, because there's some really crazy stuff, and he's saying to Barbie like, well, in driver's ed they said I didn't check the mirrors. He's like, drive. It's like he has all these reasons like, I don't know if I should do this because he told me like I didn't check the drive.
Yeah. No, he's such a quintessential American teenager.
Well, he's the Spielbergian character.
Yes.
Of the show.
Yes, he is.
Whereas Junior and Big Jim are the king characters, and so you need the wonderment, the awe, the good kid, the good-hearted soul, and that's definitely Joe.
Yeah.
And Nori, though Nori has certainly a much harder edge. To her.
Well, she's had a harder
She's from
life.
LA.
Yeah.
It's nice to see that, though, because the book, I've read, I'm like 3/4 the way through the book. It's so dark.
It's so dark, yeah.
That if you're bringing it to, like, primetime television, I don't know how
you
many
have to have some
people
fun.
would...
And the recharge party with all the kids was really fun.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
That was a
we
great
need
episode.
Captain Carter to pay him back because he was such a jerk, in the party. Hey freshie, and it's like you have to pay, so it's like cap him. That's what I always say. Cap him, So
Yeah.
So he's recovering.
Good. Well, that's good. Maybe he's learned his lesson.
I hope so.
Yeah.
That's what happens to bullies.
Now, I have a dome related question. So, Nori is not related to any of the other three, right?
I told you!
I'm just saying. So
I'm feeling very vindicated
So
right now.
because for a second we were like, what's tying the three of them together? Oh my God, is Nori somehow their sister? Which is a huge leap, I know. But did the dome come down because Nori entered the proximity of the other three keys to the mini dome? Neal, he's just holding one hand up, looking like helpless. For those of you who can't see because you're listening.
It's like,
Yeah. I'm just.
that's remains to be seen. But I can
Okay.
tell you that they all are people of good hearts.
Okay.
Oh, that's... Yeah.
Yeah, because everything that
They're
Junior
children.
has done, even when it's wrong, has been for a good reason.
Yes.
And he's a little crazy, because his mother committed suicide. He was lied to.
Yeah.
Tough.
Well, he's also, whatever his mother had, he has too.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So he's dealing with that. And dealing with that plus having Big Jim for a father is pretty
It's hard.
screwed up.
Yeah.
It's a hard life.
Yeah.
And I said this last episode, but I feel that Junior does things where he's a little bit kinder about what he does. He means well, whereas Big Jim, it's like he doesn't think. You just, okay, I'm going to reach out, but nah, you just stay drowning. I don't really think Junior would do that.
Yeah.
I don't either. No.
Versus in terms of their methodology, Junior is very impulsive. Big Jim is more methodical.
But it's interesting you bring that up because in the last episode of the season, Junior will have to make some decisions.
Oh, no.
I don't want to see what happens when Junior's at the wheel. Junior doesn't always make the best choices.
I know what you mean.
I'm worried about his future. He's dropping out of college, Neal.
Well, he can't go to college because it's outside the dome.
I know, but the dome will come down eventually.
In
Maybe.
15 years, I said.
Okay.
Because ER lasted 15, SVU is on year 15, so
Okay.
I have
Maybe
to have it.
it's like being stuck on the island for
Yeah.
Lost.
Yeah.
You're just
That's
going to
right.
be there for a while.
Okay, so we now know that the nuclear half-life of a dome is 15 years.
That's right.
Yes. All right.
So they touch the dome.
Yes.
And the pink stars fall in lines. And it's...
it's constellations.
Constellations.
Which, I mean, I don't know about you, Jackie, but that immediately took took it to, okay, so the dome is from space.
Yeah, that's what I gathered.
It's because we were debating, is it supernatural or is it, more of a harder edge science fiction thing? I'm pretty sure it's either from space or it's from Earth, and it has something to do with space.
It's good.
Yeah.
Good. But also, because I love puzzles so much, the constellations that emerge or are ejected from the egg, will play a significant role in the next episode, leading our four youthful characters to something really extraordinary and horrifyingly scary.
Oh man! So you're saying that they initiate the storm? Is what you're saying?
I'm saying that I'm not saying that they initiate the storm.
Okay.
I'm saying that the constellations will be a key clue in taking them to the next step of understanding the dome, the big dome.
All right. Well, then I would like to take us from discussion of the episode into more of a general discussion, and I'd like to start with sort of the genesis of the show. Now, I know it originally was being developed at Showtime.
Right, for 2 years.
For 2 years before it was decided that it might work better on CBS.
Right.
How much did the tone change?
Not at all.
Not at all.
No, the script changed some in terms of things you can do on cable, like how far the sex scene between Angie and Junior could go.
Right.
On cable versus broadcast network. But the show changed a bit in terms of the last act, but not much. It was still as intense. There was still the cow was in the original, and the darkness, the edge, maybe less drug use was because there's a lot of drug use in the book.
In the book, yeah.
And so there was in the original version, but not in this version, except for the propane and all of that.
Now this is we were speculating that the show on Showtime would have been even darker, and I think that's because I've read a big chunk of the book, and the book is so dark. And was it? So it was always intended to bring in kind of a lighter edge.
Yes, yeah, and the original was not darker. It's the same. It really is pretty much the same. It's there were new scenes added for our first episode. The Showtime episode actually went further in the Barbie Julia relationship and stuff in the original version than in the version that's now, which I think works better for us with broadcast, that it's been drawn out.
Yeah.
They didn't, I think in the original version they kind of slept together in the first episode. In ours, they slept together in the sixth episode.
Third.
Six, please. Six dates.
Yeah, no,
we get 6 dates.
You don't remember how much we were just like, come on already.
The rain.
I like them so much that I'm like,
the rain fell. The rain, the kiss in the rain.
Yeah,
I remember that.
So romantic. Oh,
yeah.
I love that. Yeah, that's fun.
Now, when you're developing a show like this from the book, there's obviously a lot of differences, and we know that
there's a lot of differences.
Yeah. In order to maintain a series over several years, the end game is obviously very, very different.
Right.
And we're not going to see it for some time. The way we've been doing it on the show is Jackie's reading the book. I'm not reading the book so that I can be fresh like some of the audience. How did you decide what changes to make in terms of your cast? Obviously, Angie dies early on in the book.
And Rose is still alive in the book.
Right. And Stephen was really supportive of this, is that the book is the format for the show. So this phenomenal idea of an invisible dome inexplicably coming down on an all-American town, trapping people inside with no hope of getting out or no one getting in, and hence all of our secrets bubble to the surface, is really captivating and hadn't been done.
Yeah.
And so that is the diving board for the series. And then we took all these main characters like Julia and Barbie and Big Jim, and finessed them so that Big Jim is maybe darker than he is in the book, and Barbie is not as dark. In some ways, is more heroic. But we really tried to use that format, and then because it is serialized over, we hope, a number of years, we had to depart from the book because the book is only 7 days, and so we're already on day 13. So with Stephen's blessing, he said, just use what you want and go with it. And so there's no mini dome in the book, and there's no egg and all of that, but we like it because we still can be inspired by Stephen's work and his characters, and we draw on them, and he's going to write the first episode, so it's kind of cool because even though we did the book and we're not following the book slavishly, he's going to write the first episode that sets us off on a new course for season 2. So he's very much involved, and he wrote a really nice letter that was in Entertainment Weekly saying to his fans, we could have slavishly adapted the book, but then you wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah.
So we want to also give you surprises too, but we also want to give you that great experience of what the town was like and what people were going through and the food riots and the water and all of that. So we have sort of an amalgamation of everything, and it gives us the freedom though to, bring on a character like Max or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I like too. I like that it's different from the book, because now that I'm almost done with the book, I'm like, oh, I can still be surprised. I don't have to see what happens exactly. And it's not like when you have something like Game of Thrones, where it's a series that's ongoing, that's okay, you have like 8 books or something. This book is finite. So
7 books, only 5 have been released. Just saying. Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. I'm like Joe. I like details.
Right.
Yeah.
So my next question was, you've done a lot of medical. You have a medical background. You're an MD. You did ER while going to med school. I just learned today.
Right.
And you still practice a little bit.
Yes.
Yep.
And then you did Law and Order, A Gifted Man, and a lot of these are like crime themed as well. How does Under the Dome is now has kind of like a sci-fi element. How does that differ from what you've done in the past?
Well, Under the Dome is most closely like ER. So,
Yeah.
and I, ER was just so fantastic to work on from the beginning. It was just such a great ride because ER was serialized through the characters. So it was like what would George and Juliana, Carol and Doug, what was going to happen with them and all of the stuff. So we had, great medical stories and characters coming in and out, but it was always about those main doctor characters, Mark Green and Noah Wiley's character, John Carter, and Sherry's character, Susan Lewis. So it was really sort of this great mixture of solving a medical mystery every week and continuing the story of these characters. So Under the Dome is the story of these characters and their secrets emerging and following this mystery that's unfolding. And so it's in each episode we sort of have something that happens, like it could be a manhunt or a fire or an outbreak or a water crisis. So we solve that in an episode, but we then push our characters further along. So it's in that way, I guess, most like ER. It's not really a procedural, but it has procedural elements because every week we're going to unfold some new mystery, but answer some things too.
And I just thought about this too. And where ER is stuck to a finite location, this is kind of.
I love being outside so much in North Carolina. It's great because it just doesn't. It looks like it could be any place in America, but it gives us. We actually shoot in three places. So we have the water in Southport. We have a real small town in Burgaw, North Carolina, with the town square, and that's where you see all that. And then we have Wilmington, North Carolina.
Great.
That's awesome.
This is kind of a broader question, but you've been working in television for so many years. What do you love most about storytelling, and what keeps you coming back?
Well, I guess it's just sort of inherent in me. I'm asked, well, do you write for the audience? And I never really do write for the audience. I write for myself and the writers in the room. So we've got a room of writers, and we all tell each other stories. And as we tell stories, we draw on our own lives. So there's a lot, like when I was a kid, I used to collect caterpillars. And I love for them to watch them make cocoons, and then I was always so fascinated about how they could metamorphose into a butterfly. Like, what was it that made that happen? And so I see that almost subconsciously. I don't know why I put the tattoo on Angie's shoulder at the beginning of the season, because I didn't know about the caterpillar until later on in the writer's room, and I pitched that, and it was like I was selling the other writers. I'm like, oh, no, come with me, follow me, you know.
Yeah.
So it's like really fun because you're telling stories, and then you kind of reflect on it, and you say, wow, that's kind of like about my life. Or you pull in movies or things you've seen, like I was talking about before, and you can draw on all these crazy things, and it's real collegial, and there's a camaraderie with the writers. We have wonderful, wonderful writers with different backgrounds, and they tell a lot about their own lives as they're telling stories or as we're pitching out how to do things. And so that's really just, it's about, you know, kind of deepening your own exploration of your life and where you are. And it helps me kind of deal with my own life in a way, and I think it's very metaphoric for my life. And so in many ways, this show. So it's really like it's I guess what I'm saying is it's really good therapy. It's really good therapy.
That is good though.
Yeah.
So on that note, if you're all telling stories about your lives, are there characters that you think specifically correlate to certain people's experiences?
Oh, absolutely. So some writers really love writing, you know, Barbie or Julia or Angie or Junior, and you know, it's like whomever you gravitate to, you're going to write for. And so it's really cool that we have this group of writers, and they have different, you know, loves that you know, different people that they really, you know, like writing for, and so that everybody gets, you know, written. So you know, maybe we don't have Phil as much, but you'll see Phil again coming up, and you know,
Good. We love Phil.
Yeah, Phil's fun. He wears like great clothes.
He does wear great
clothes you would never dare to wear yourself.
It's
but
true.
they look great on him.
Yeah, we want Phil and Dodie to get together already.
Yes, we're big fans of the Phil and Dodie relationship.
I know when they were dancing, wasn't that?
Yeah, because we hadn't even considered it, but then
and then we did, and we were like,
the way that they played it, there was just so much
listened
tenderness.
to that song when I was a little boy. I love that song, "The End of the World." I can remember. It's like, see, it's like that's where you like go, okay, I love that song, so we're gonna have that song. And then, you know, what was really gratifying is when that episode aired, people went on YouTube and they looked up Skeeter Davis, and then I looked at the Skeeter Davis site on YouTube where she sings "End of the World," and people said, "The dome brought me here. The dome brought me here. The dome brought me here."
That's
The dome brought me here."
awesome.
I was like, wow, and they like got to know Skeeter Davis, who was probably one of the early, more influential country western sort of singers, very influential on later women, and so it was like women western singers. So it was really interesting to see that people like kind of discovered her. So it's like, okay, what
That's
other
awesome.
songs can I like put in next year?
Yeah, and even younger people too. One of the most pleasant surprises in doing this after show is how many younger viewers we have.
We do. We have a lot, which I wasn't expecting. I don't
They
know. I
love
always think
Joe.
of,
They love Colin.
They love Joe.
Colin has and I'm so happy. I keep tweeting for Colin, you know,
yeah.
but it's great because he's only, I think he may have just turned 17. He's only 16 years old.
Oh my God.
So it's like, and Mackenzie's 17, I think,
Mm-hmm.
and Alex and Britt are in their early 20s. So it's just amazing that we have this. You know, that's a little bit unusual for CBS to have. CBS's core audience is a bit older audience, and so I think they're really happy about that too, because we love having, you know, I know I have a friend who has a daughter who's 15, and she's just like makes her mother watch it with her, and it's like, yes, I like that. And my son's in college, but I let him watch them all before they air, and he like gives me notes. It's like, thank you, studio and the network do that too, but it's fun because he's really into it as well. So we're really gratified that it has a broad audience.
Yeah. How long? And I know you want them to last as long as possible because we want to have the show on as long as possible, but resources eventually have to give out, or at least we're going to revert to farming, and
Sure.
we'll have water and food
Sure.
that comes from the land. But how much longer can these supplies hold out?
he said 15 years.
I know.
Well, I don't know that the supplies can last that long, but you know, I just don't know. We'll have to see what happens, and if anybody can ever escape, or if anyone finds a way, or if the military bombs it again and finds a way out. There's all kinds of possibilities.
That's one of the most interesting things to me, because when the dome shifted the magnetic poles of the Earth,
A little
right?
bit, yeah.
Yeah. Are we going to ever see? And I know I keep asking questions that you can't answer, and that's on me. But this is what's on my mind. It's what's on my mind, Neal. I'm so curious about the effects that the dome is having on the rest of the planet. And I
Right.
know that
Right.
the show is under the dome. It's
Right.
not world with a dome on
Around the dome.
it. Right.
Well, we will, again in episode 12, hear about what's going on outside the dome.
Yeah.
So, so be patient.
Okay. I'm patient.
Good.
Look at me. This
But it's good that you're asking that, and we have thought about that, and yes, we will talk about what the world is thinking.
great.
I had one more question, and now I can't remember what it was.
Okay,
Forget that.
speaking of
Forget that.
of forgetfulness and lost memories. So Dodie touched the mini dome.
She did.
She touched the mini dome. She burned her hand, and the dome wanted her to forget. We don't know what the dome's purpose is,
Right.
or what it wants from us.
Right.
We've had a lot of discussion about, is the dome testing humanity? That was one idea that we had was the
'Cause
Chester's.
it seems to be a sentient being.
Yeah.
That it
Yes.
can make these decisions.
Yes, it is.
It's a sentient being.
Because it rained. I mean, maybe it rained because the sun made the cloud, made the water evaporate, but it rained at the right time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it rained when they needed it.
But, and maybe Big Alice died to make way for Little Alice for some reason, or not. Or maybe Alice really, or maybe Harriet just imagined seeing her husband coming back, and it was just a sort of a mirage as opposed to if the dome made it happen. But next week we'll see
Okay.
what the dome can or can't do.
Yeah.
But we do get into this really deeply by the end. It's like, what is its purpose? And I think we give you, we give you something to chew on.
Do you have a dream ending for the show?
We actually have an ending, and we have said this in interviews, that is different from the book.
Yeah.
So that if you've read the book and you think that you know how the show would end if it ended, but that's not true. So
Okay.
we do have an ending, and we know how it ends whenever we need to end it.
Is there a show without the dome?
A show without the dome.
Is there
it's like-
is
That would be like the Andy Griffith Show, because it's kind of like near where Mayberry really is.
Yeah.
In North Carolina. So I guess it would be like, it would become the Andy Griffith Show.
I don't know,
There's no
but it
dome.
just, if the dome came down, it achieved.
Maybe Ron Howard would do a cameo.
That would be cool.
So cool.
That would be awesome.
Yeah.
'Cause-
Yeah, that would be really cool.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, if the dome achieved whatever it wanted to achieve, but its presence somehow was still on the planet, I don't know. I mean, that's not necessarily the show that you want to make,
Right.
but I've thought about it, because once if the dome can communicate with us, it is a sentient being. It is chosen potentially to take the shape of a dome,
Right. So maybe if it took the shape of a pyramid or a square. I don't know.
or a being.
Well, it's I see this as a parable for our times. It's like we all live under this big biodome,
Yeah.
and we're facing, sustainability issues and, fuel crises and things like that, and burning fuel and causing global warming. So without banging our viewers on the head, this is like a more intensified version of that. That if you imagine that a dome came down, you have to grapple with those issues right away. You can't just push them off as we tend to do as human beings.
Right.
So that's why we like this dome too, because it allows us to tell stories.
It's instant stakes.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So I think we're pressed for time.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, Neal, I want to thank you so
Sure,
much
thank
for
you.
joining us.
Thank you so
It's my
much.
pleasure.
It's been a real pleasure.
And
too.
we always, we know how many different projects you're involved in, but I know you write books too. Is there anything
I
else
do.
you would like to
Sure.
let people know about before
Sure.
we go?
So I have a novel that came out last year called Kill Switch, which is on Amazon. It's in bookstores too. And the next one's called Kill Again, and it's coming out next June. It's about a forensic psychiatrist in training. And then I have a documentary film, a feature film that's coming out in January, and it will be out around the country, called If You Build It. And it was shot in North Carolina. And it's shot in a Porus County in North Carolina, where high school juniors learn how to design solutions for their town, and they end up building this beautiful farmer's market. So it's going to be out around January, February of this year.
That's awesome.
Thanks.
Thank you. We're just going to move into a quick bout of speculation, and you can
You can join or not join.
yeah, as you would.
And now, your AfterBuzz TV predictions.
So our exclusive is that Julia's going to be shot, probably by Maxine. Which makes me feel terrible because she's my favorite character.
Maxine or Julia?
Julia.
Oh, okay.
Ew, not Maxine.
Yeah.
She's my favorite villain, I should say. Maxine is my favorite
She's
villain.
my favorite character. No, she's not. My favorite character is Ben because I think he deserves the world.
You are
But
so goofy.
so we've got this storm. We've got this storm coming. The dome has been made angry somehow, and I'm wondering if that's connected at all to Dodie touching it, or
Probably.
if the kids start telling people again, because the dome did not want them to tell people.
I think it's more because it seemed very upset that Dodie touched
Neal
it.
is just slyly shaking his head. He's like, "You guys have no idea what's coming."
But the dome. You're right. The dome is angry for a reason, but it has more to do with our 4 characters.
Okay. Oh, I'm wondering if there's some discord sown between
Those
our
kids
4,
should stop making the dome angry.
and maybe Nori and Joe better slow down what they're up to, and they better stop making out for a second and start talking about the future of their relationship, because. Oh man, Joe pisses off Nori somehow in a big way, and now that they've all touched the dome is fully activated, and that means big consequences. And now everyone's gonna know about it. Okay, I may have taken 1 or 2 steps too far there, but I think I'm close. Jackie, anything else?
No, that was it.
Okay, Jackie, where can the people find you?
At 123Jackie_B on Twitter. On Instagram, it's no underscore.
Neal, can the people find you on Twitter?
Sure, it's just Neal Baer.
All right, at Neal Baer. And you can find me on Twitter at Matt Lieberman. That's MattLieberman. You can also find me here on AfterBuzz TV on the Breaking Bad and Low Winter Sun after shows. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much again to Neal
Sure.
for joining us.
Thank you.
It's been a real pleasure.
Thanks.
Thanks for answering some of our burning questions.
Sure.
Only 3 episodes to go. Please come back next week. We're going to have a great discussion for you. Thanks so much.
From Bing.com, executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.